Welcome back to Up in the Blue Seats, our New York Rangers podcast from the New York Post. I'm Brian Boyle, joined by my co-host, Rangers beat writer for the Post, Mollie Walker, and our Hall of Famer from the Post, Larry Brooks, is here with us. We got a lot to talk about today, reacting to the Rangers trade deadline moves, 3 straight wins, big wins, since we spoke last. But first, happy belated birthday, Mollie Walker.
Thank you, Brian.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, the big
Way to work.
2-7.
What'd you
On
do?
NHL Network, the guys were messing with me. They were like, "Yeah, Mollie just turned 18. Get out of here."
What'd you do?
It was good. We obviously the Rangers were home, which was the first time in like the last couple of years that I was home for my birthday. I've spent it in St. Louis. I've spent it in Buffalo.
Lovely.
So I have to say that New York City just kind of trumps both of those cities.
Mollie had a birthday week. I mean,
that's what they do now, Larry. That's
like
what
events,
they're doing.
she had events every day,
I know Larry's fascinated by this. He really is. But we gotta make an excuse to have fun. Why not?
I hate my birthday.
Oh well.
It's not for me. Just like a reminder.
Oh, stop
It's not it.
Oh, stop it.
And Igor's mom had a birthday. Can someone explain this to me? I mean, everyone has birthdays, right?
Well, yeah.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, Igor was cracking jokes, I guess posting back-to-back shutouts will do that to you. But yeah, he said that it was his mom's birthday the night of the Hurricanes game, and that was the reason why he couldn't have a bad game. So but
Right.
what an unbelievable couple games he's had, and honestly, just a stretch in general from his turnaround and from January to February. He's looking really good, and the Rangers are going to need that down the stretch.
Yeah. I think with Shesterkin playing the way he is, the Rangers look like the Rangers now.
Yeah.
They're playing well, and I don't know whether they filled in a couple of pieces at the deadline. I don't know that maybe it's the deadline is passed and they've got their group and they're going, but against St. Louis, against New Jersey, against Carolina, three different tiers of opponents. Kind of, the Rangers have been sharp. They've really played well. They've played well without Trouba. Keandre Miller and Braden Schneider are playing really well together as a pair. Zach Jones has been outstanding since he's come in. They're playing harder. They're playing with more snarl. They're playing with more physicality. They're getting good goaltending. They're rounding into a team that does belong at the top of the league, as they have been just about all year. It's kind of like the eye test hasn't always equated to the standings, at least through my eyes. And I've said that all year, that their record is something, but they need to improve. They need to do this. They need to do that. They look like they're in stride right now, and they are preparing for the playoffs.
Well, I like the fact that they won the games they're supposed to win, right? They went and beat St. Louis. They went in a sort of an emotional, it's always emotional against the Devils. They beat them. And then they had a challenge on a back-to-back, and their back-to-back record is ridiculous. I don't understand that. And that is a stat. Like, that is,
yeah.
And it's
10-1-0, right? I believe
it's contradictory. Like what we saw when they kind of were going through their stalls in the middle of the year, where they some days didn't have the emotion, didn't have that that grind or that pushback, and the fact that they're 10-1 in the second half of back-to-backs just kind of blows that theory out of the water. Like, this is when it's tough, when it's harder. I mean, back-to-backs, I don't care, they're hard. It's not, especially if you're playing a rested team. People don't realize that it's a split second here and there that adds up to, like, we were awful tonight, and they've been great. 10-1 is not a small sample size. So that against a good team that people were like, this might have got them over the hump post-trade deadline, the Carolina Hurricanes, it was stifling. And I mean, he's been
Rangers, the Rangers have been really good in Carolina for a long time.
Yeah.
They play very, very well in Carolina. There is essentially no, other than the matchups, which become extremely important, obviously, in the playoffs. but other than the matchups, there is no home ice advantage in Raleigh for the Hurricanes.
Not with the amount of Ranger
own that.
fans that are down there.
I mean, you know, the way they played last night, they played tough, and you know, Carolina, Shesterkin was terrific,
Mhm.
but you know, they didn't seem to be the amount of pressure Carolina always puts on. You know, they're always firing pucks to them. They're always going to the net. They're always funneling everything to the front. There wasn't that kind of 60-minute game last night. There were stretches in which the Rangers, you know, had to defend in their own end. But you know, I think you know, I think they're clicking. They're playing really well.
Larry's like,
They
dare
have
I
a,
say?
they have,
Dare I say they're
Careful,
clicking?
Larry.
I know they have a game in
Careful.
Tuesday. I'm gonna say it.
You're going off brand here.
Well, how about the goal? The goal was like a Carolina Hurricanes goal.
Yeah.
It's shot
Yeah,
volume,
so
retrieval,
goofy, yeah.
retrieval, shot to the net from a D man from an angle, and it's in the net. That was a, you know, it was a
I
great
think,
play.
you know, talking about the D man and talking about the D, I think Fox has played with more snarl to his game recently, and I thought last night he did.
Oh yeah.
He and Lindgren now, he and Lindgren are playing as well as a pair
Mhm.
as they have in a couple of years, I think.
And
And
he
I think,
was,
and I think, you know, Adams kind of fallen below the, you know, the Norris conversation this year. He's not quite in it, so maybe people forget about how good he is. But his game is you know, his game is becoming more complete every day. You know, he's back to where he
Mhm.
was.
right. Well, keep in mind, like he got injured. It
Yeah,
was, and he's not 6'6". He's not Victor Hedman, right? He's not the handsome Swiss guy in Nashville who just carries the puck everywhere and does everything for that team.
is that
He's
what you
not
called him
explosive.
when you were teammates? Is
I call
that
him Yos. We're buds. I call him Yos.
okay?
He's not, you know, he's not Cale Makar, who's just so explosive.
Right.
He's a lot of his game is subtlety.
Right here. And it's up here.
Yeah, and so if he's off a little, okay, but he's still putting together. He's back, right? He's got more snarl, like you said. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that that's the team that injured him earlier in the year. He was going to push back a little bit, but
Well,
he's back to that. He's back to that level.
he crushed Aho into the boards
Yeah.
in the final minute and a half. I actually was on the play where he blocked the shot, where he dived and got a piece of the puck with a stick, and then he creamed Aho, and I don't think it was a coincidence.
People don't forget.
You know, yeah.
I don't think it can be understated or overstated enough, I guess I should say, how they've filled in for Truba. And now with Matt Rempe's suspension, Johnny Brodzinski comes in. The fact that they've been able to play that the way that they are on this 3-game stretch here with depth players while integrating new faces into the lineup and getting the goaltending that they've been getting. This is the time that you want everything to start clicking on all cylinders, for things to start falling into place, to test your depth for down the stretch.
Mhm.
So I think this has just been a really pivotal stretch for them. But let's get into the Rempe suspension, shall we? We can have a little round table about that. Brian, I do want to toss it to you first.
Oh, my. All right.
Lay it on us. Go ahead.
When they prior to their meeting a couple days ago, their last game at the Rock was probably a game when the final buzzer sounds, Tom Fitzgerald picks up the phone. And that's what happened. They got Curtis McDermott for a reason. So you'd expect, you know, regardless of what they're going to do now, and Tommy Fitz made some moves. I think that were a bit of a head scratcher. And then when you look at it from far away, it makes sense for down the line, the next few years. The nucleus is there, whatever. But McDermott, there was one reason for that.
Singular.
So, and I give Rempe credit. He doesn't have to do anything. We talked about this on the NHL Network yesterday. Mike Rupp called in. He doesn't have to do anything. He plays hard, plays physical, finish your checks, do whatever you have to do. And you don't have to fight. And they had control of the game. He didn't have to fight McDermott. Matt Rempe did not. When you do a flying elbow, which I thought, honest to God, I have been in that situation where you're going really fast. You want to finish your check. You want to keep your spot in the lineup, and the boards are coming up quick. So you brace for the boards. He clipped his head. I still do not think it was intentional. I think a suspension was 100% warranted. I did not like what happened after.
Mm-hmm.
And the only part about that I didn't like was the waving.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give him credit. I'll even say that it was such a melee and all the stuff was going on. There's bodies flying everywhere. The linesmen are in there grabbing. The fight might not have been able to happen. You don't want to get in a fight where he has the jump on you. He has your jersey. He's ready to throw a punch and your stick's still in your hand. You don't want to do that. I've been in that situation. It's not good. And look, he wants to win fights he's in, and he wants to do it on his terms. He's earned that right because of who he's fought. But if I'm Curtis McDermott, I would feel the exact same way, I think.
And he expressed himself accordingly after the game.
Yeah, but I don't blame him either.
Yeah, no,
He's
you
brought there
can't.
for a reason.
Yeah.
And the guy wouldn't fight him, and he's probably upset about that. And the only part he's probably upset about is after the high hit. He thought he deserved a fight. And
well, they also wanted him to answer for the Bastion hit too.
But there's not, so those aren't, you can't put all these things in a pile and say, well, he did this, it was borderline this, it was borderline, and then this. No, this elbow was the elbow. That's why he's suspended. I think 4 games is too many, by the way.
Yeah, I was really, I just was kind of, I think I said to Larry that just shade, no shade, but shade to the Department of Safety. It was either going to be one extreme or the other. It was either going to be 1 game or 5, I thought. I genuinely thought it was either going to be on one far end of the spectrum or the complete other one. And 4 even still surprised me for
a lot.
First time offender, even though, in technicality, but not literally, definitely not.
No, it's literally.
Yes, I know. In technicality, yes, his first hearing, but the weeks that he's had, like he's been on their radar, like.
But those were clean. The Bastion hit was 100%.
I agree. I agree, but
not
I'm
his
just
fault.
saying,
He's huge.
I know. I agree with that statement 100%. But I do think that because of all the noise and because of just the track record that he left behind him, the trail of bruises, as I said. Literally, that's exactly what I wrote. It obviously was on their radar, and I'm sure that they were waiting for this. It was going to come. It was inevitable when it was going to come, and they threw the book at him a little bit. They wanted to, slow him down. They wanted to, bring him back down to earth because Lord knows he has not been on earth. He's been riding this wave. Understandably so, but I definitely think it was harsh. But at the same time, I see the optics. I see what they were trying to accomplish. But again, the inconsistencies, the no precedence that this Department of Safety has is just a whole different discussion. But that's why it's not surprising to me.
All right, Larry, what do you got?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, listen, I think the suspension was probably twice what it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's an example or representation of George Parros punching down in weight class. He would never do this to an established guy. It would never happen. And I think they were trying to send a message, whatever it was. I think it was unfair, but I also think in the long run, it would probably benefit Rempe. I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I think that it gives him a week to kind of to reset, to decompress. It gives the Rangers a week to work with him hard at practice and get his game, and get his game on track. And it is on track. I mean, but work with him on just work with him, and because he's so raw. He's just so raw. And he's so enthusiastic, but I do think that his promotion and Edstrom at the same time, but Rempe has become this, larger than life figure. I do think that his recall sent a message to the team and has changed the way the team plays. 100%. I do. 100%. They're a much more physical team since he's been here. And a couple of the moves they made at the deadline. Wenberg's not a physical player. Roslovic's not a physical player, so they're not more physical because of the deadline. They're a more complete team, but they play with much more of an edge now. They do, and
It's
I think it's
contagious.
important. And what I thought it is, and what I thought was really interesting was last night in Carolina, Laviolette talking about how they were missing two players, how they were missing two physical players in Trouba and Rempe. And I think that's an indication for people who just think that Rempe's a sideshow and he's here for 2 weeks and he'll never be in the playoffs. I think Laviolette wants him to be on the playoff line. I don't think there's any doubt that Laviolette wants Rempe to be capable enough to play in the first game of the playoffs. And I think when you see him in the small sample sizes, he is effective. Their line's always in the other end. They're always below their hash marks. They're rarely caught in their own end. They're rarely trapped. You can look at the numbers, and obviously it's a small sample size. He's been on for 4 goals for, only 1 goal against, but every time he's on the ice, and certainly at home, there's excitement, there's a buzz in the crowd. The only time, the last time I can remember that, and it was a really short time, the Rangers got Pavel Bure at the trade deadline in 03. And the rest of that season, every time he touched the puck at the Garden, people got up. He was electric. It was just electric. It was the last year I think he had 2 good knees, or 1.5 knees. But it was electric every time he came onto the ice. It was like, well, what's Bure going to do? And
that's what it's been like for Rempe.
And that's what it's been like for Matt Rempe. He brings a different dimension, and the Rangers have a little bit of a different dimension. And I wrote about this today in Post Plus for the subscribers. The Rangers have been a white collar, white gloves franchise forever. They're the team of Jean Rattel. That's Jean Rattel, Rod Gilbert. You go on and on. Brad Park, who could scrap, but this was always the skill team. They got beaten up by the Bruins in the late 60s and early 70s. They got beaten up by the Flyers in the early 70s. It was just it's a lineage of Rangers being bullied. And so now they finally have this guy. And there's an uproar around the league. And as somebody who sat in the side balcony of the old Garden on Geo cards when I could buy a ticket for 50 cents, and for somebody who had a season ticket in the blue seats in section 419, it's kind of like I'm looking at Rempe and I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah. We've got somebody, and this is the fan. We've got somebody on our side.
Wow. This is a real treat, everybody. Larry never talks about the fan side.
No, I've never heard of
That's what I see.
Look, even Brian's like, wow.
No, it's great.
Yeah, that's what I see.
Brian's going to run through the wall right now for you. That's how hyped he is.
And when I was there, we took on a bit of the personality of a coach. And
yeah,
it was a close group because the games weren't easy, the practices weren't easy, and the meetings weren't easy for all different reasons.
Yeah.
But we won a lot of games. And then when we had time to ourselves, we were very close because of, the stress that we were put under, which was great. It ended up being great. Now, he comes in and he has one way to play. And it is straight lines, finish everybody. If somebody gets hurt, this is grown men playing ice hockey professionally. Okay. People seem to be forgetting that. And it's starting to bother me a little bit because there's going to be injuries. And the fact that he's getting torn down because of his size bothers me.
Yeah.
I have a little sensitive spot in my heart for that. And growing up, for my whole life up until I turned pro, it was like, you can't, even in college, if I would yap at somebody after the whistle, I would get talked to or benched for a shift by my coach. Like that physicality, that intimidation factor wasn't allowed. it was incredible to me when I turned pro how like, oh, we can impose our will on people and figure out different ways to intimidate people.
Mhm.
And it was great. And this guy's doing it, and he's bringing other guys with him. They have a little bit of it, and you're going to see it more from other guys because everybody's walking a little bit taller. That's why Lavi wants him in. Now he's got a week. Puck touches are a big thing when you're not playing a ton of minutes and you're not really allowed to make plays. You get those touches in practice. Try and make it as real as possible. When they're allowed more call-ups or when the playoffs start, there's going to be more guys on the ice. He's just going to keep getting better and better. He is so raw. I think there's something there. Like his game can grow. Somebody made the comparison to Tom Wilson. His first couple of years in Washington, he was straight lines, speed, physicality. I mean, I don't know if he's ever going to be 30 goals, 25 goals, but this guy is a problem for other teams, and other teams know it, and there's nothing they can do about it. So their fan bases are whining, and that's all they can do. Like I did a top 5 of the Western Conference yesterday, and the amount of Vancouver fans, like I like Vancouver. I really like their team. I got friends on their team. I left them off my list.
Ooh.
Well, there's 6 teams in the West that could,
Yeah.
if they won the West, no one would be surprised. And these people are such babies. Vancouver fans, you're all babies. You need to shut up. Leave me alone. Like if your team does well, that's great. I hope they win. They're gonna win. Whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. But this kid, it's the same thing. They're all whining because they literally can't do anything else. They can't get another guy. They can't make their team go after this guy. There's no other thing they can do. So they're like the little brother at the dinner table crying to mom and dad that the big brother's picking on them. So if he can harness some of this and toe that line and not go over that line, he's going to be a problem. It's a great thing.
That's what it's going to be about for him, is towing the line and just recognizing his spots. And I've
We also, and Brian can talk to this, but it's also, I mean, it's also, coordinating his body parts, and
yeah.
you know what I mean. I mean, and you're as good a person as any to identify and talk about it. I mean, there, it's just like I wrote this morning. Is it possible to look clumsy and to be at the most elite level of a professional sport? He looks clumsy, but obviously he's not clumsy. He's in the National Hockey League.
Right.
He's not clumsy.
Yeah, the
But
little deficiencies are big. Like little
yeah,
things that they look worse. And like
Mhm.
I didn't play a ton of games in college, but I was playing 20, 22 minutes every single night in college working on that. And then I went to the minors and I worked on that. Then when I came up, not playing a lot, it's kind of hard. You're not really you're
right.
cold, you're sitting for a little while, you got to go out and it's like go hard. How fast he can skate for the minutes that he plays and how big he is. I think if he gets better and plays more, he's going to be faster.
Yeah.
So that's what excites me about it. I don't care if he scores 30, he's going to be a faster player. He could be, I mean, in my mind, an elite penalty killer. He's going to be such a problem. Other teams D are going to, bang out sick that night at some point. If this goes the way I think he can go.
Meanwhile,
The Rempe flu.
the Rempe flu, that's a good one. But meanwhile, I mean, you talk about the production. He almost had his second goal the other night. And
That was a goal. That
yeah,
was a goal.
I know.
I don't get it. That was a
He
goal.
almost did. He almost did.
Right.
He also
It looked like it was in.
it did
Hell of a
look
pass
like it was in.
from Barclay Goodrow, who's playing great. He got white tape on his stick now. Never a good sign when you see the guy with weird tape. It's like if I notice it, then he's doing something because it's up here. He made 2 great passes, one to VC, and that one was right in the wheelhouse. That was a heavy little one-time snapper.
Mm-hmm.
That should have been a goal. But then the screen on Gustafson's goal.
I was just, that was my next thing.
Doesn't go in the net.
And watching the replay, I mean, he battled. He can battle in front,
and he won the face-off.
Yeah, he also won the face-off
and
that led to it. He's not a one-trick pony at all. But man, in particular on that screen, God, I would hate to be a goaltender trying to see over that. I mean, it was astounding. It really was such a spectacular thing to watch unfold. Just all 6'8.5" of him, like what a miraculous screen. I just, yeah, it's exciting.
Well, you know, the interesting thing too is he's such a phenomenon because it seems as if he just came out of nowhere. Like, you know, it's not like he was in the national spotlight and, oh, this 6'8.5" kid is making his way to New York
Right, like
and
everybody's
it's
anticipating
like they
him.
all,
There
you
was
know,
no
yeah.
anticipation.
And it's kind of like, you know, so people are just almost startled. You know, he just
Showed
showed
up
up. You know, it's
like
like
Buddy,
Joe Hardy, you know,
like Buddy
who
the
is
Elf through the Lincoln Tunnel.
this?
Oh, I mean, Booka Boom was talking to me about him actually prior to the season,
Yeah, it was,
and the guy's like, we got a guy, and yeah, so they've been, he's obviously been on their radar. They've known quite a bit about him, and they've known the potential there, and now we chime in like we know what we're talking about. I love it. Their schedule right now is kind of wild. So
Yeah.
the good news about this is it's not going to be a lot of days where he's out. The poor guy gets fined. That's
Yeah, I think
That's bullying from
I
George
think he
Peros.
forfeited like 17 grand, something like that, a little over
That's a
17
lot when you play in New York, and
and that's a lot for him in general. I mean, it's
yeah.
a lot for any normal human being, but like for him, just getting started, it's a tough amount to forfeit.
Actually, before we get to their schedule coming up, let's go. Like, what have you guys seen? I mean, I know what I've seen. I kind of like where they're all slotted now. But what do you
Yeah.
got from Wenberg and Rostovich? And I can go and talk a bit about Chad Ruedel. I play with him in
Yeah.
Pitt.
Yeah, I mean I like the fit so far, especially Roslovic on the top line. I feel like I mean, not only is Mika playing lighter because now he got that 5-on-5 goal out of the way, first one since
Hey,
September 23rd, if
good
anybody
for
needed
him.
a reminder. But it just as a line in general, they're playing lighter. They're looking to go north. Roslovic's contributions on the forecheck have been, pretty invaluable in a short sample size. Um, Same thing with Wenberg, just makes the lineup longer, which was, the goal all along in getting a center. Um, I like the moves, especially, not giving up as much as some other teams gave up for marquee guys. Jury avoided overpaying. I think it was a pretty good deadline for the Rangers. I do.
I think it completes their team pretty well. I wrote I'm not sure why they didn't get involved at all at Hannafin. I would have liked to have seen them spend a little more time on maybe adding on defense, but the two guys, the guys they got, the two forwards they got are good fits. I mean, Wenberg's a really good player. Um, he can move up, and I
Mhm.
assume at some point at some point during games he will move up. Laviolette really likes to versatility. It wouldn't shock me if there are shifts where he even moves up to the right with Kreider and Zibanejad, and Roslovic maybe goes into the middle for some shifts on the third line. But Roslovic brings pace also
Yeah.
to Zibanejad and Kreider, and that's what I think they kind of need more than anything. You can talk about what style of player should be there, should be on the right. Should it be a big grinding guy? Should it be a shooter? I think they just need a guy who plays with pace. And Roslovic's very intelligent.
Hmm.
Those two guys are very intelligent. So I think it'll be a good mix. It's they haven't really had a practice yet, have they?
Yeah, no,
No, they
they
haven't had a
haven't.
practice. They haven't
They
had a
have not had a
full
regular
practice with
practice
this
yet.
team. So,
I think
you know,
Wenberg has had one.
Wenberg had one.
Wenberg had one,
Possibly
but the other guys, no.
hasn't skated and
Yeah.
hasn't skated other than morning skates. That's been it. Or actually one morning skate because the first
Hmm.
one he just showed up. So I like that. I think Wenberg's a very good player.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And Ruedel, you can talk to.
Hmm.
Yeah, Chad Ruedel is like, if 14 minutes of just, you know, grind. He's physical. He's a right shot. He's a good penalty killer, and he's just ultimate pro. He is zero maintenance. He is a guy that I think Jones can look at and learn a lot from. I think any young player can look at how he just handles his business. I think he at times could have played more in Pitt. and didn't say a word. There were training camps where was he going to go to Wilkes-Barre or was he going to stay up? This guy is the same guy. There were times where he played on the second pair and we had a bunch of penalties. He played 22 minutes. Same guy every single day. Zero ego, physical, not a tall, huge hulking guy, but when you play against him, it's no fun. So he's a guy that's obviously how he's been used so far, lack thereof. It's a depth pickup, but when there is, I think coach trusts this guy. Playoff series is how I look at his contributions are going to come in a playoff series at some point. I know it.
What's interesting to me is that they got a right defenseman at the deadline, Ruido. They had a right defenseman go down, at Trouba. And instead of putting Ruido in, where he would have slotted naturally, just throw him on the right side of the third pair with Gustafsson, they went with Jones because he had been there all year. And I think that speaks to
absolutely
mindset. That really speaks to what Laviolette wants for this team and what they have kind of become. And I don't want to over dramatize it. Every team has its own story. And every team is unique and is unique. But this team is really close. And that's something that from the minute he took over, and again, Brian, you can talk about it because you played for him and you've talked about this before, but it's the sense of unity and the sense of loyalty to each other. I think that that Laviolette and the coaching staff has worked on all year. And so you see, Zach Jones has been scratched 45 times. He's a young player. He wants to play. He just wants to play. He needs to play, but not everybody gets to play in the NHL. But he wants to play. He wants to play. He comes to practice every day. He skates after at the mornings. The options. He's there. He's there every day. And so after being scratched for 45 out of the first 61 or whatever it was, there's an opening. He's going in and he's playing well.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, that represents a lot of what this team is. And it's you can drill it down to their post-practice hugs. That's what this is about. It's about them. It's about them being as a unit. And that's the way they operate.
I don't think there's a chance in hell you can win if you don't have some aspect of that. And Lavi can bring that. Yeah. It's too hard. And it gets harder. And when you are that close, you don't want to let your teammates down ever, really. You play for a number of different reasons. You play for the people that got you there, but you don't want to let your teammates down. You got to scratch and claw to find a little extra sometimes. And, I'm not at practice. I don't see that. I saw what I was surprised that after the injury, he didn't go in. Rudy didn't go in and play. Talked to Dave Maloney about it a little bit. He said, this guy's been a good soldier. You got to put him in. We don't know what that could do in there if he's just going to him or to the rest of the guys. And that's the right call. And that's Lavi's very good at understanding, the personal aspect of the game. He's great at bringing guys in. I got traded there. He was great at bringing me in and making me feel so much a part of it right away. And it's like, might sound cliche, but it's true. Been traded a couple times. Doesn't happen everywhere. So it was interesting to me to see that Jones has been in and out. It's not as much a surprise that he's played so well because, if anyone's earned the time, it's him.
Yeah, it's well deserved. And I've spoken to Jones a couple times this season just about, what the difference has been for him last season to this season. And he just talked about having a completely different attitude about the role that he was going to have and the role that he is being charged with. He, the sense that I got is last season, it was just kind of, he kept waiting for it to happen for him, kept waiting for him to leapfrog up in the depth chart. But this season, he kind of came into it saying, if if I get a certain amount of games, that's the amount of games that I get. And, I'm going to make every single one of them, count and fill the role that I need to fill here. So his entire mindset has been different this season. And I feel like it's been his best season yet.
No question. Well, it's good for him at the right time too.
Yeah. And I won't hold it against Chad that he's a EMS lol guy. I told him that. So we're okay.
Kind of like this, it's all the same. It's all the same. A couple old guys in the league right now, which is
it's not the same, but it's okay.
hockey. Same
Zach,
to BC.
Zach,
to
Zach
BC guys, they're all the same.
Zach, shut up. You know what, Zach? I don't even want to say Jonathan Quick because, and I was actually talking about this with Chad. UMass was probably such a blip on the radar for Jonathan Quick, but for the rest of us, it was such a big part of our lives. But it's okay.
Well, he was good there. All right, we got Thursday at Tampa, Saturday at Pitt, and Sunday. That's home versus the Islanders.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the Jets Tuesday. 3 out of 4. That poor Pitt, they stink. Like they're so bad right now.
Yeah.
Just lost to Ottawa.
Yeah.
But you got
Happens to
Tampa,
everybody.
guys. That's going to be a big game at Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see that. Tampa's in trouble.
They could sweep the regular season series against him, which I actually, for some reason, I wasn't sure when the last time that had happened, and I thought maybe it had been a long time ago, but it was actually 2 seasons ago when they went
Really?
to it. Yeah. During the regular season, they swept Tampa before they lost them
What's interesting
the
about
conference
Tampa.
final.
Sorry. What's interesting about Tampa is that you look at Tampa and it's almost a concept. They built their program and they won their cups and they've been such a formidable team and organization for a long time. That I look at Tampa and I think of Tampa more as Tampa, not just the team on their players on the ice now, but you still have to beat Tampa. And the Rangers could wind up playing them in the first round. And I just think that's a difficult assignment. It is a difficult assignment to go in there and maybe the shine has finally will have finally worn off.
It's
that's
still going to be a tough matchup
like the
though.
same, but and obviously they're not what they were, but you never know. The heart of a champion. You just never know when it beats. And
that was beautiful.
It would be a series for the Rangers. I think they would be favored to win, but it would be a very difficult first round for them.
Yeah, no, Vince Collin and I were talking about all the possibilities that they could have for the first round, and of all of them, the Red Wings, the Islanders, I think that Tampa, it would be the most difficult matchup for them in the first round, 100%. I think that they would rather play any of those other teams.
Well, the Islanders would be crazy. It would just be a crazy.
I mean, that would just be fun.
Yeah. Well, I don't like them either. They would scare the way they're playing.
And it'd be very difficult to even handicap because there's just so much that goes into that.
Yeah.
It'll be a tough game on Sunday, and you know what? They will miss Rempe in that game.
Yes.
They will.
100%. I just think, it's league wide though. The amount of teams that have had dips for stretches and gone on heaters for stretches. Yeah. What are you going to get? So like even for Tampa, for example, Hedman, Kucherov, Point play at their highest level. Vasi plays at his highest level. Do you want to face that? You got to expect that if you're the Rangers.
Yeah.
And I think Hedman's had a great year, and so has Kucherov. The other guys, not as much. You get a few more of those guys buzzing.
Yeah. No, they're a tough team. They're a tough team at their core. Even though it's not the same core, they're still a really tough team. And I think they're the toughest matchup for the Rangers. 100%.
Yeah, this
in the first round, at least.
Duclair might be a sneaky, sick pickup.
Good pickup, yeah.
We'll see. Tuesday, you'll see Johnny Quick one of those games at least, right?
Probably.
One of the back-to-backs, maybe, or
definitely one of the back-to-backs.
Saturday or Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be a fun week. Lots of games.
Actually,
I love games.
we'll probably see Quick in Pittsburgh now that I'm looking at it.
I think he plays the first one. Like that's what
I,
they
I
did. That's
do.
what they did.
Well,
That
he also shut
surprised
them
me.
out. He also shut them out in Pittsburgh. It was actually one of his best games of the year. One of the Ranger goaltenders
Yeah.
best game of the year.
I'd be curious to look up when the last time Igor played in Pittsburgh was since
Oh, we lit him up.
yeah, since the 2021-22 playoffs. How many times he's played in Pittsburgh?
Didn't quite light him up in games
All right.
5,
I
6,
was
and 7.
I got hurt.
Didn't quite. I mean,
got hurt.
he won 3.
I know.
But yeah, when did you leave? The game 6?
Game 6, I went out and
Game
blew
6.
True up.
Yeah.
Hit him so hard his skate came up, kicked me in the arm, cut me open there. I didn't even know it though. My knee tore a little bit, meniscus. Sid told me not to, and I did it anyways. I couldn't. That was the most I've ever seen red, I think. Before a game, like after a game, practice, and then a new game, I still was
seeing red.
Yeah, and I wanted yeah, I mean I hit him hard. He got right back up and played. Nothing happened. But I was surprised he got up as quick as he did because I really got him good. But
yeah, that's
big boy,
number 8.
Yeah, that was an elbow to the head. Anyways.
Anywho.
We'll let Larry go. Appreciate it, Larry.
Yeah.
Great seeing you.
Yeah, great.
Can't let some things go. But good stuff today.
Rangers
we
at
got
7.
yeah, right. We got Boiling Point coming up next.
All right. See you later.
Thanks, Larry. Okay, today's Boiling Point is a little bit different in the sense that like I understand fandom and I understand people having a loyalty to their team if they feel slighted. But if you see like a little blurb of who I think maybe the top 5 teams that are going to come out of the West are, and your team's not on there, just do like a 10-second search on the clip where I say like there's 6 or 7 teams that could win the West and it wouldn't surprise me. Like cherry picking stats and going at people who talk about sports on TV with the idea that they're picking on you or your team or your fan base doesn't get any breaks. I'm looking at you, Vancouver. Like I understand you think you're getting picked on. You're not. You got a great team. Canucks are a great team. I have friends on that team. Just leave me alone. I'm trying to do a job. You know, I got kids. I'm just trying to do a job. Inform the people of what I think. If I ask you, I'm sure you're going to root for your Vancouver Canucks. You love them. There's other teams that are very good as well. Like anyone can come out of the West. That's a great thing. That's great for the game. Stop yelling at me and calling me names. It's hurtful. All right. I'm doing my best. I hope the Vancouver Canucks do well. I hope you have a bad day though, because you're being mean to me. I'm sick of it. But I understand the fandom and I actually love it. I respect it. I wish more teams were like that. There'd be more passion in the game. We get it here in New York. We get it here in the New York area with those 3 teams, and in Boston and Philly. Can't say it doesn't annoy me sometimes. All right. So I might not be boiling over, but just like leave me alone on Twitter. All right. Thanks. And that will put a wrap on episode 149 of Up in the Blue Seats, our Rangers podcast from the New York Post. Mollie again. It's just 2 of us. I'm not saying that other part.
Just us 2.
Just us 2. So we're going to dish out our 3 stars of the week. Our third one will be a joint star. What do you say? What's your first star?
Gotta give it to my fellow UMass man, Zach Jones.
Jonesy.
Just really impressed with the way that he's been able to step in. I mean, he didn't play for over a month. And that's tough.
That's brutal. Yeah.
That is so tough.
It's a long time.
It's a really long time. And then for him to step in and play the way that he has, I mean, the D hasn't missed a beat. He's looked great. Just a really good sign for the Rangers in terms of their defensive depth. And we haven't even seen Ruhwedel. And, you know, we talked about how amazing that's been from Laviolette to show faith in Jones. And good story.
He's a pro. That's a professional, you know, and look, if it doesn't work out, down the line or if he wants to
Yeah.
be moved. So that's a great sign that he's come in and played well under those circumstances. So yeah, great,
Oh, his stock is
great
up.
call.
His
100%.
stock.
I got a star. They're gonna share the star though. The goaltending. Igor gets the most of the star, but Johnny Quick again, not resting on his laurels. Got his extensions playing well, but Igor, a couple bagels in a row, you got to give him some love. So good for him. He's figured it out. That's huge for the Rangers. And we got a joint star.
Mm-hmm.
Go
Number
ahead, Molly.
93.
There you go. Mika March.
Number 93. We have officially entered Mika March.
You'd rather Mika May, wouldn't you? Just go on a tear in May.
Yeah, I think the Rangers would rather Mika May, but in order to get to Mika May,
Yeah.
Mika March needs to happen.
Let's get a Mika Spring going.
Yeah, we can rebrand it. No, but I mean seriously, it was time.
Yeah.
The 5-on-5 goal, the relief all over his face, and I think since then, he looked lighter out there, and
The
that's
Sam
all you
Rosen
can ask for.
call.
It's a 5-on-5 goal.
Yeah. So there was no secret. Good for him. Many thanks to Jake Brown for producing the show, as well as intern Dan Shalom. I screwed that up again. Sorry,
That's
buddy.
okay.
Hey, Danny boy, appreciate you. You can catch up on all the episodes of the podcast by subscribing to Up in the Blue Seats on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch us on the New York Post Sports YouTube page. Subscribe there. Give us a thumbs up below on YouTube and comment below. How do you feel about the Rangers trade deadline moves? You can also follow us on Twitter at Mollie Walker. That's 2 E's and 2 R's, and at Brybrows22. For Mollie Walker, Larry Brooks, I'm Brian Boyle. Peace.